Order to consider Amendment Number 5, printed in House Report 112-423. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
The amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment Number 5, in the nature of a substitute, printed in House Report Number 112-423, offered by Mr. Garrett of New Jersey.
Pursuant to House Resolution 597, the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Garrett, and a member opposed. Each will control 15 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank the chair, and I yield myself 2 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Last week, the House Republicans introduced a budget that takes the first step towards reversing the path to debt and decline that the President and his fellow Democrats have laid out for the American people. Today, the Republican Study Committee, the RSC, builds off of that work and offers a plan to further cut spending and balance the budget in just 5 years.
Madam Chair, not in order.
The gentleman is correct. The House is not in order. The members will clear the aisles. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With real spending cuts today, enforceable spending cuts for tomorrow, and common sense changes to strengthen our nation's safety nets and pro-growth tax reform, we can finally restore much-needed certainty into the economy and reopen America for business. You know, to say that President Obama and the Senate Democrats have failed to lead on the most predictable economic crisis in our history would be an understatement. Senate Democrats have not been in the debate at all, failing to pass a budget for over 1,000 days. And the President's most recent attempt at a budget, well, came a week late, and it added literally trillions of dollars to our nation's debt. You know, every American family understands the necessity of a balanced budget. Families also understand that setting a budget sometimes is difficult. It requires difficult choices. But, you know, with even the accounting gimmicks and the massive tax increases, our President's budget never, ever balances. This is a void in leadership, and it has substantial consequences on real Americans all across this country. So today, the RSC budget represents a clear, a practical way so our economy can, begin to grow again. How do we do that? First, we repeal Obamacare once and for all. Next, we cut discretionary spending and we eliminate the programs that are unconstitutional, that are duplicative, and that are harmful. And perhaps most importantly, we don't kick this can down the road and punt these tough decisions. We actually save our national safety net programs that are currently going bankrupt today. So with these common sense solutions, and by harnessing the power of competition between private net insurance plans and improving at the same time the quality of care, we put Medicare on the path to long-term solvency. So what is this? This offers a real plan for the future, and today I urge all to support the RSC substitute.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you.
For what purpose?
Thank you.
For what purpose is it?
I rise in opposition.
The gentleman rises in opposition.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yesterday we debated the Republican budget plan. Today we have a plan that's more of the same except on steroids. As we debated yesterday, the question is not whether we should reduce the deficit or whether we should reduce the debt. Of course we should. The question is how we do it. And we should do it in a way that doesn't damage the ongoing economic recovery, which this proposal does. We should do it in a way that is balanced, meaning we have shared responsibility. And the Democratic alternative that we'll debate shortly has that balance. We make difficult spending cuts, but we also cut a lot of the loopholes and special breaks in the tax code, because if you don't do any of that to reduce the deficit, it means you've got to reduce the deficit at the expense of everyone and everything else. And that, unfortunately, is what this budget does as well. It ends the Medicare guarantee for seniors. It slashes Medicaid very deeply, cutting the program to more than a third by the year 2022, where 2/3 of the funding for that program goes to seniors in nursing homes and disabled individuals. It cuts deeply into education funding, both for pre-kindergarten, preschool, as well as college, and cuts deeply into those important investments, including transportation, which we were debating earlier today. In fact, their transportation proposal would cut transportation spending next year by 46%, even though we have 17% unemployment in the construction industry. So this budget, like the one yesterday, makes the wrong choices for America. We can reduce our deficits and debt. Let's just do it in a balanced way with shared responsibility. And with that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Nevada, Ms. Berkley.
Gentlelady is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the chairman for yielding. Madam Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to both the Garrett substitute and the Ryan budget. Today's debate is about one thing: priorities. Should Nevada seniors be the priority for the United States Congress, or should Wall Street and big oil companies be the priority? The Republican budget proposals answers that question very clearly. Instead of tackling Nevada's record unemployment and foreclosure rates, Washington Republicans are instead advocating to kill Medicare by turning it over to profit-hungry insurance companies. This proposal would raise the premiums for Nevada seniors by up to $6,000 a year. Why would Republicans do this? In order to pay for more tax breaks for corporations that ship good American-paying jobs overseas, or to continue taxpayer giveaways to big oil companies that made a record $137 billion in profits last year alone? Mr. Speaker, these are the wrong priorities. Wall Street millionaires and big oil companies don't need our help. They're doing just fine. But Nevada seniors are struggling to make ends meet, and putting private insurance companies in between patients and their doctors would just make things worse. I encourage all of my colleagues to join me in rejecting this plan and any plan that has the wrong priorities and tries to kill Medicare by turning it over to private insurance companies whose only interest is profits and not the health and well-being of our seniors. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from New Jersey.
Yes, at this time I would like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana. Oh, actually, to the chairman of the RSA, Mr. Jordan.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank the Speaker. Thank the gentleman for yielding. I just want to respond to two arguments my friend from Maryland has made in his remarks, and frankly made the last 2 days in this debate. First, he says we need a balanced approach. Now, you know, everyone understands when Democrats talk about a balanced approach, what they mean is raising taxes now, and oh, we promise. And you can count on this promise because it's coming from politicians. We promise we will cut spending later. And I'd like to point out, if it's so important to raise taxes on the American people and on certain businesses, why in the world didn't the Democrats do this just 24 months ago when they controlled all of government? In fact, they had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate just 24 months. Why didn't they? If it was so critical, why didn't you do it then? So this balanced approach is not going to fly. And the other argument they make is somehow our proposal that Mr. Garrett and his team put together, which I strongly support, somehow it's going to hurt economic growth. So someone's got to explain to me how getting to balance in 5 years and then beginning to pay off a $16 trillion debt, a debt that is now bigger than our entire economy, bigger than our entire GDP, someone's got to explain to me how that will hurt economic growth. I actually think it will probably prevent a downgrade. I mean, unlike last summer, if we'd adopted this budget last summer, my guess is we wouldn't have got a downgrade from S&P. So I just want to commend the gentleman from New Jersey, his hard work, and his team, and say this, make this final point. One of the things that makes our country special is this simple phenomenon. Parents make sacrifices for their kids so that when they grow up they have life better than they did. They in turn do it for their children, and each generation in this country has done it for the next until today. Today, for the first time in American history, we have a political class who's living for the moment, spending for the moment, and sending the bill to the next generation. And it is wrong, it is unfair, it is immoral, and the only budget that's going to get us to balance in a reasonable period of time, in a common sense period of time, that the American people understand is the budget that Mr. Garrett and his team has put together. And so I strongly support it and urge my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I now yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Engel.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for a minute and a half.
I thank my friend for yielding to me, and I rise in opposition to this budget and in opposition to the extreme Republican budget. You know, budgets are about priorities, and what are the priorities of my Republican friends? Protect the wealthiest in this country, protect big corporations, kill the seniors, and hurt middle-class people. This is just nothing that makes sense. Their budget slashes services to the elderly, slashes Pell Grants, slashes education services, slashes services to those with disabilities, and increases tax cuts for the wealthiest people and the wealthiest corporations. That's the Republican priority. That's the Republican priority. Go after Medicare. Go after Medicaid. Give increased tax breaks to wealthy people. I don't think that's the priorities of the American people. I think the priorities of the American people are in the Democratic programs. And let me remind my friends on the other side of the aisle, for 6 years under Bush, they controlled the Senate and the House and the presidency and did none of getting back to basics with the budget, red ink as far as the eye can see. So the newfound religion that we see on the other side, you know, please spare me. What we do see from the other side, again, is protect the wealthiest, big oil, big corporations, hurt Medicare and Medicaid, hurt the middle class, tax breaks for the rich. Those are the Republican priorities. On the Democratic side, we care about the average person who's struggling to make ends meet. We want to help the average person go to school. These are our priorities. Which are the priorities of the American people? I think it's the Democratic priorities. I yield back.
The gentleman from New Jersey.
Now, this time I will yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana, a man who understands that our president has failed to lead by not presenting us a balanced budget, so he has presented us through the RSC. The gentleman from Louisiana.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank the gentleman from New Jersey for bringing this amendment forward, this budget that implements what we would consider a balanced approach, and that's what we call cut, cap, and balance. And that's what's so important about this amendment, this budget that we bring forward with the RSC, is that, number one, the most important thing is that we finally control the wasteful Washington spending that has added mountains and mountains of debt onto the backs of our children and grandchildren, which is just immoral. It's wrong. It's surely not fair to send the bill for all this spending to our children and grandchildren and continue it on autopilot, as President Obama's budget did. President Obama's budget, by the way, which got no votes, not even one Democrat voted for the president's budget. The contrast we bring here today is that in 5 years we will have a balanced budget under this amendment that's being brought forward. So we cut spending in areas where we've been needing to finally control spending, like families are controlling spending back home. When families deal with tough economic times, they've already done this. They tighten their belts, and they make do with what they've got, and they live within their means, and Washington has refused to do it. We finally put those fiscal constraints in Washington. But then we also put caps in place so that until we get to a balanced budget, there's a freeze on discretionary spending so that we're able to finally get to what is ultimately a balanced federal budget in 5 years. And we go further. Of course, we repeal Obamacare, something that's been so devastating already to so many families that have lost the health care that they like. So many other things, the tax increases that go with it. Tax increases, by the way, which in many areas hit middle-class families real hard. We abolish that. And then we even go further. We save Medicare. President Obama's budget actually escalates Medicare's bankruptcy. In 12 years, and this is, by the way, President Obama's own Medicare actuaries, Medicare goes bankrupt, and they're willing to sit by and let that happen. And we're not willing to do that. We're going to save Medicare. This budget does that, too. It has those reforms that Chairman Ryan brought forward that actually put Medicare back on a sustainable growth path. And then we have common sense tax reform that actually lower overall rates. This is a great budget that's been brought forward that's finally responsible to address our problems, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, the reason the Republican budget and this budget do things like end the Medicare guarantee, do things like cut deeply into education for our kids' future, do things like cut Medicaid by over $800 billion over 10 years, is because they're not asking the very wealthy to share more responsibility in reducing the deficit. In fact, they double down on tax cuts If you see from this chart, this is from the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Institute, simply by locking in the portion of the Bush tax cuts that benefit the wealthy, millionaires on average, people making over $1 million a year, will get $129,000. Then you heard talk about how they're going to drop the top rate from 35% to 25%. That would give people earning $1 million over $265,000. On top of that, they say they're going to do that in a deficit-neutral manner. Well, to do that, you've got to make up $4.6 trillion in revenue loss. They're going to do it by getting rid of all those deductions. One of the biggest ones is the mortgage interest deduction that helps middle-income people. So the net result of what they're saying is more tax cuts for the folks at the very top, financed by increasing the tax burden on middle-income Americans, and financed by cutting important investments that help grow our economy. And with that, I yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Moran.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized for a minute and a half.
Speaker, this budget proposal is a stunningly radical document because at its core is a massive redistribution of income from the economically disadvantaged to the wealthiest members of our society. In order to fund historic, unnecessary, and unsustainable tax cuts for the rich, this Republican budget would require us to nearly eliminate our ability as a government to invest in our physical and human infrastructure. In other words, it shows no faith in our nation's future. Puts our future in the hands of those who can afford to live in gated communities and invest in foreign economies. In fact, more than two-thirds of the non-defense cuts in this Republican plan come from programs that directly benefit low-income Americans. The path laid out by this resolution is where, in my children's lifetime, most of the federal government, with the exception of defense, Social Security, and health care, would no longer have the money to function. Now, what does it mean to virtually eliminate non-defense discretionary spending? That's a budgetary term, but that includes research at NIH, roads and public transit funding, Head Start, education support, FBI, drug enforcement, the food, meat, drug inspections, no national park maintenance or environmental protection. That's what it means to virtually eliminate these functions of the government. Can I have another 30 seconds?
I yield the gentleman another 30 seconds.
30 seconds recognized.
Now, Speaker, this is not a budget for the America that we know today. It's a budget for Grover Norquist's America, a radical conservative fantasy land where government is no longer fiscally able to play a role protecting those who need it most, protecting our most precious natural resources, investing in the job creation initiatives that will enable us to move forward as a people. That is not a vision that we should want to see passed into law, let alone into reality. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'm pleased to allow for 2 minutes to the gentleman from Kansas, who understands that this administration has failed our children by continuing to take from them so this administration can spend today. Gentleman
from Kansas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the hard work of my colleague from New Jersey, and today I rise in proud support of the RSC budget that we are discussing here today. This budget offers a clear vision for fiscal responsibility and limited government, as well as a path toward accomplishing that vision. In just 3 days, the United States will have the highest corporate business tax rate in the world. In a matter of months, every American, every business owner, every investor will be subject to higher taxes as a result of the expiration of the Bush-Obama tax cuts. That's right, the Bush-Obama tax cuts will expire. This budget addresses these looming challenges not only by proposing to lower tax rates, but also includes the ticket to make them a reality, with reconciliation instructions that requires Congress to vote before September 15th on comprehensive tax reform that will actually create jobs in America. On another note, this budget vastly improves Medicaid and helps our most needy. The costs of this program are consuming our already cash-strapped federal and state coffers. In many states, it's not uncommon to spend more on Medicaid than on K-12 education. In converting Medicaid to a block grant program, we will enhance state-level accountability, respect the 10th Amendment, and give states the freedom, flexibility, and yes, accountability they need in order to serve their citizens better at the local and state level. I urge all my colleagues to support this budget as the answer to accomplish America's priorities of cutting spending, keeping taxes low, creating jobs, and balancing our budget in a matter of years, not decades. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Oregon, member of the Budget Committee, Mr. Blumenauer.
The gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Make no mistake, this is actually the heart of the budget philosophy of our friends from the other side of the aisle. This is where they want to take America. Remember last time it almost passed until the leadership was horrified, seeing that it was winning, and started twisting arms to have people change their votes so it would go down. It is disconnected from the real-life consequences of average Americans and what America needs. There's a certain irony. We just approved a short-term extension of the transportation bill, which makes it impossible to use the full construction cycle this summer because the Republicans would not allow a vote on the bipartisan bill that passed the Senate because they were afraid it would pass and we'd have stability for 2 years. The Ryan Budget Committee budget will cut transportation 46% at a time when America's infrastructure desperately needs additional investment. And this budget doesn't even identify the depths of the cut. They shove it all into Function 920, so it's disguised, but it's likely 10% or more below the already intolerable levels of the Ryan budget. This is not what people are hearing from folks at home in terms of what America needs to put people back to work, to strengthen our communities, to deal with problems of water, sewer, transportation, failing bridges, and transit. It fails a fundamental test, and the partnership we've had for the last 66 years of a national priority to rebuild and renew and focus on transportation and infrastructure. Just one more reason why we should reject both of these alternatives and support the program that has been offered by my friend from the Budget Committee. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
At this time, I would like to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from South Carolina, who has been a stalwart leader in the legislation that's before us and trying to have the U.S. live within a balanced budget.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank my colleague from New Jersey for the opportunity. We can and will, obviously, over the course of this day, say a lot about this budget, a lot of bad things about this budget. I prefer to focus on one positive thing above all others. One thing, this budget actually balances. The budget actually balances. 5 years it takes to do that. Not easy. In fact, it's very, very hard to do that. It's easier to borrow money. In fact, the reason that we borrow so much money is because it's easier to do that than it is to go home and tell people that we have to make hard decisions in order to balance the budget. And we are afraid that if we go home and tell people that we have to make difficult decisions, that they won't send us back the next term. And make no mistake about it, the most important thing in many people's minds in this chamber is to make sure they come back next term. This budget challenges that. This budget balances. President's does not. We took it up last night. It failed overwhelmingly. No one supported it. It never balances. Later today we'll take up the Democrat budget, which also never balances. Budgets that never balance raise a legitimate moral question, a moral issue. If you borrow money with the intention of paying it back, that is debt. There's no question. If you borrow money intending to pay it back, it's debt. If you borrow money never intending to pay it back, that is theft. That is theft. And that is what the President's budget represents. That is what the Democrat budget represents. That's what so many budgets over the course of the last generations in this town have represented. We have borrowed money with no plan, no intention ever to pay it back. And too many budgets in here today will simply continue that cycle. It's wrong. It's wrong to do to our children and our grandchildren. It's wrong to do for ourselves. You should never take something and not even have a plan to pay it back. Say what you want to about the Republican Study Committee budget. Say what you want to later on about the Republican budget that Mr. Ryan and the committee are offering. But at least, at the very end of the day, they offer some way to pay back the money that we borrowed. For those reasons alone, they merit our support. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We'll talk more later about the Democratic alternative and how we address the deficit in a serious and credible way without doing it in a manner that provides a windfall tax break to folks at the top at the expense of everybody else. For now, I yield to the gentleman from New Jersey, a member of the Budget Committee, Mr. Pascrell, 2 minutes.
Gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it does. I've listened to these words. Empty and Pyrrhic come to my mind. How in God's name can you speak across the floor to the people on this side, imply that the President is guilty of thievery or theft, when from 2001 to now, here's the record. And I'll wait. If you want to interject, please stand and say you're wrong. 2001, tax cuts not paid for. 2003, tax cuts not paid for. No, not yet. I'm not finished. Then you can interject your thoughts. Don't look so startled, because what you've said is startling. You didn't pay for those 2 tax cuts. You didn't pay for 2 wars. You didn't pay for the prescription drug plan that you put into effect. In fact, you didn't even vote for it, Mr. Chairman, yourself. The point of the matter is you paid for nothing. Then you're accusing us. You're accusing those on this side of the aisle of not being responsible. Do you know what you've done? By 2020, the portion of the debt gets bigger because of those things you folks did a few years ago,
the gentleman
and you
will
have
suspend.
amnesia about
the
it.
Gentleman will suspend. The chair must remind members to address their remarks to the chair, not to others in the
Through the
body.
chair, I yield.
Thank you, sir. I thank my friend from New Jersey, for whom I have a great deal of respect, Madam Chairwoman. And what he says is correct. What he says is absolutely and without reservation correct. What this government did during the first half of this decade was wrong. Borrowing the money as we did was wrong. To continue it, Madam Chairwoman, is just as wrong.
Madam Speaker, I take back my time. I think I've been generous about that. The only difference is the President, who was the President in 2001, I'm glad you agree with me, came into circumstances very different than the President who raised his hand in January of 2009, wasn't it? In 2000, we had a surplus of $5 trillion.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I yield the gentleman another 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Gentleman.
This President raised his hand. We were losing 750,000 jobs a year, number one. And number two, we had a deficit beyond belief, Madam Speaker. And for us to compare, you must believe in fairy tales. Now, if you want to talk about a budget that's in balance, we can do that. But if we continue on this path and not recognizing history, we will never come to balance. Let's be honest. I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
At this time, I would like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California, who understands that, first and foremost, that this Washington must do what every family in the United States does, and that is to balance its budget. Gentleman from California.
The gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Madam Chairman, this nation is on a collision course with a sovereign debt crisis, the magnitude of which we have never experienced. This is not some moonless night on the Atlantic. We are spending full speed ahead toward that iceberg of debt in the full light of day, and we can all see that plainly. The House budget turns the ship just barely enough to avoid hitting that same hazard which has already wrecked Greece. The RSC budget turns us promptly and safely. It builds on the House Budget Committee's work, but within the budget passed by the House last year as adjusted by the sequester. I've heard the descriptions. It's draconian, it's radical, it's extreme. It returns us to the spending levels before the Obama-Pelosi spending binge began in 2008. That might sound extreme to my friends across the aisle, but I assure them many families have been working within flat or even diminished family budgets since then, and they have every right to expect that their government over the next 5 years does what they have already been doing over the past 5. Work hard, waste not, and live within your means. If we were to do so, this nation could see a balanced budget again within 5 years and redeem its rightful place as the respected financial leader of the world. We know the challenge. We see the American dream at risk. And we know that we have but a fleeting moment in history to avoid the hardest times our nation has ever known. We still have a chance to place our retirement systems on a sound financial footing, arrest the debilitating spiral of debt that threatens the very survival of our nation, and return our economy to the prosperity that is known when it has enjoyed what Jefferson called a wise and frugal government.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Maryland, let me note that the gentleman has 1 3/4 minutes remaining, and the gentleman from New Jersey has 3 1/2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If I could inquire of the gentleman from New Jersey, I will reserve.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
So at this time, I'd like to yield 3 minutes then to the gentleman from Georgia, who also has been a leader on this in order to make sure that this House does what the American public asked for, to live within our means and bring this country to prosperity. Gentleman from Georgia for 3 minutes.
The gentleman from Georgia has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, you know, these are serious times. We're hearing a lot of rhetoric here today. We're hearing about, we've got some revisionist history. There's a lack of recollection that in 2006 and 2007, this body was in control by the Democrats, the Senate was controlled by the Democrats, and then the President inherited a mess from the Democrats that were in control of these bodies, of which he was a part of. A little bit of revisionist history going on here today. But the fact that the members on the other side can stand here and look into these cameras, to the faces of the children all across this nation, and not provide them a solution is appalling. Every time it is, let's push it off. Let's push it off further. We have no plan to balance the budget. We have no plan to pay off the debt, but we have a balanced approach to continue down the same path. Now, a balanced approach, that's like straddling the fence. It gets you nowhere, and at some point you're going to fall off this fence, and it's going to hurt. Today, we have the opportunity to reverse this trend of trillion-dollar deficits and balance the budget in 5 years. Today, we will decide whether to stop borrowing from the future to pay for the present. This budget presents a path to the balanced budget without raising taxes. It eliminates the death tax. It unlocks America's energy sources. This budget unleashes the power and ingenuity of America's job creators and addresses the entitled elephant that has this impending path of insolvency that lays before us. And in 6 years, Madam Chair, we will begin paying down the debt with this budget that's before us. So we should no longer accept the Democrats and President Obama's decision to take us down this road to ruin, because we have a choice. It's a choice between two destinies. It's a destiny of debt and dependency, the path we're on. Or it's a choice, a different path. Maybe it's one of opportunity and prosperity, Madam Chair. I say we choose the path of opportunity and prosperity, and this budget, the budget I'll refer to not as the RSC budget, but as America's budget, will put us on that path to prosperity and opportunity. And Madam Chair, I encourage every member of this body, regardless of party, to support this budget, because it is the children who are looking out on us today, looking for that solution, looking for a positive answer, and looking for us to work together. This is that opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The gentleman yields back. Does the gentleman from Maryland wish to close?
I'm going to be the last speaker, so I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from New Jersey has 1 minute.
If there's no other speakers, then I will close with the remaining time.
Madam Chairman?
The gentleman from...
I think you want to close, right?
Right. If you have no other speakers and you're about to close, and
So I will be the
gentleman
yes.
from Maryland has
We'll
the
finish.
right to
thank
close
you.
last.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I say close, I just mean I will close up with our
Yeah,
time.
all right. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
The gentleman from New Jersey.
I will use up my remaining. There you go. Madam Speaker, as we come to the floor today, it is agreed on both sides that there's plenty of blame to go around as to how we got into this mess. Republican and Democrat on both sides of the aisle, this administration and past administrations as well are to blame. We can point fingers all day at blame, but what we should come here today to do is point the finger at the solution to this problem. And the solution is the budget that we see on the floor today. The solution is the RSC budget that we have here today on the floor. The solution is to make sure that we do on the floor today what every single family in this country and what every single business country always has to do, and that is to make the tough choices, and that is to make the hard choices, and that is to live within their means, and that is to have a balanced budget. This is the only budget that will come to the floor today that will actually do all that. This is the only budget that will come that will make sure that we actually balance, not within 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. We will actually balance within 5 years, and we will do so at the same time that we protect the safety net for our seniors today and in the future. We will do so at the same time that we protect our children in the future. We will do so at the same time that we make sure that we do not borrow from our future to pay the bills today. I ask you to support the only budget that does all those things. Support the RSC budget.
The gentleman from Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. One thing I hope we can all agree on is that we need to protect our children and grandchildren and future generations. The question is not whether we need to do that. Of course we do. The issue is how. And I keep hearing my colleagues come forward and passionately talk about that, but they're absolutely unwilling to take the balanced approach that has been recommended by bipartisan groups. Everyone that's looked at this challenge says we got to take a combination of tough spending cuts, but we also need some revenue from closing tax loopholes and asking folks at the very top to go back to what they were paying during the Clinton administration, by the way, the last time that we had a balanced budget. And yet, despite all that talk, they don't want to close one loophole. In fact, almost every Republican in this House has signed this pledge to Grover Norquist saying they won't cut one tax loophole for the purpose of deficit reduction, that they won't ask folks making $1 million to contribute any more to deficit reduction. In fact, they propose to give them another windfall tax cut. That's the choice they make, and because of that choice, they cut our investment in education for our kids. They cut investments that will strengthen our economy, help build our infrastructure so we can outcompete and outbuild and outeducate the rest of the world. That's what we need to do for the future of our children, and I urge everybody to vote against this amendment.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New Jersey. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is for what purposes, gentlemen?
Madam Speaker, in light of the fact that this House just weeks ago voted in favor overwhelmingly of a balanced budget amendment, I hereby ask for a recorded vote on this very budget and for an important vote as well.
The gentleman has not been recognized for debate.
No, I'm just asking for a...
Does the gentleman...
I'm asking for a recorded vote.
The gentleman is asking for a recorded vote. A recorded vote is requested. Those in favor of taking this vote by a recorded vote will rise. Sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The House today continuing consideration of the fiscal year 2013 budget proposal. A short while ago, they defeated a substitute plan by the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Spent the last hour or so debating a version a proposal by the Republican Study Committee, and it's getting a vote here, a 15-minute vote. I want to remind you, too, our guest this Sunday on Newsmakers on C-SPAN is Jim Jordan from Ohio, the congressman from Ohio who is the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, and that is Sunday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern here on C-SPAN. Earlier today, the House passed a short-term extension of transportation programs. The vote was 266 to 158. The White House has released a statement on that saying in part, quote, "It's not enough for us to continue to patch together our nation's infrastructure future with short-term band-aids." So again, that passes in the House and now goes on to the Senate. Ahead of that vote on transportation, however, Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi said she wouldn't support the bill because it's, quote, "irresponsible and would cost jobs." She said that the House should pass the two-year Senate version instead. Her briefing this morning is about 20 minutes or so, and we're going to show you what we can during this vote.
Good morning. Here we are, probably our last coming together for press availability before we leave for the Easter Passover break. As we gather here this morning, the President will shortly be making a statement about energy at the White House as the United States Senate is debating legislation on how we stop tax breaks for big oil and use those resources for renewable energy so that we can take ourselves out of a situation where we are held hostage by an international price of oil. This is an issue that, as many of you may remember, is very important to me. As a Speaker, I instituted a select committee on the subject of energy independence, and I'm excited about the fact that the President and the Senate are moving forward with this, and it's something that we will support them all the way. It's really important to stop the subsidies, use the money for renewables, and that will help us down the road. Immediately, we have to stop the Wall Street speculation, which is cornering the market on oil and adding, experts say, almost 20%, 17, 18, 20% to the price at the pump. We have to stop those same Wall Street speculators from trying to sue against the Dodd-Frank provisions that stops them from cornering the market. And the other point is the Republicans here, the handmaidens of big oil in the Congress, are trying to stop the funding of the commission that regulates derivatives and speculators. So that's on the subject of energy. As you know, today we're debating the budget. Simply said, the Republican budget breaks the Medicare guarantee, makes seniors pay more, $6,000 more, to get less in benefits, while they give over $300,000 tax breaks to the wealthiest people in our country. Just isn't fair. It's a job loser, and it must be, hopefully, it won't even have the votes on the Republican side to pass, but it may. On the other hand, our Democratic budget is a statement of national values about the education of our children, the economic security of their families, the creation of jobs, the retirement security of our seniors, supporting Medicare, and again, doing so in a fiscally sound way. It's important to note, just if you had, I mentioned the Medicare, $6,000 more for seniors, $300,000 tax breaks for the wealthy. But also, if you're a young person, in terms of higher education, 400,000 young people will be deprived of access to Pell Grants, and another 9+ million people will have their benefit curtailed under the Republican bill. At the same time, the Republican bill does nothing to address the fact that on July 1st, the interest on student loans will double from 3.4 to 6.8%. The House Democratic budget under Mr. Van Hollen's leadership addresses that and keeps it at 3.4%. So if you're a student, if you're a senior, if you're a member of a family, this budget should not be a statement that reflects your values. It does not. That budget, now talking about what else is on the floor today, transportation. The Republican budget, think of this, We all recognize that the transportation bill is one of the biggest job creators. We all recognize that over time it has always been bipartisan in its approach. That's because localities have worked together in a regional way to put forth projects that can compete and, again, create jobs, build the infrastructure of America, promote commerce, and quality of life. In the budget, they cut it from $90 billion to $46 billion. As miserable as the Republican bill is, H.R. 7, it doesn't even get funded by the Republican budget. Maybe that's a good thing. But apparently they don't have the votes for their own transportation bill, which the Secretary of Transportation has said has been a job loser, bad for public safety. God bless you. And it's a bad bill to begin with, and they don't even place the idea of, well, let's come together about some transportation bill and adequately fund it. What they're doing today is, again, trying to kick the can down the road with a 90-day extension. These extensions are bad. They lose jobs, and these departments of state departments of transportation report job losses from this kick the can down the road extension. 41,000 jobs in North Carolina. That's the most. I mean, because they have big things going on there. Illinois, 4,500, Maryland, 4,000, Nevada, 4,000, Michigan, 3,500. The list goes on and on. And the problem is that there's no confidence, no certainty, so when they kick the can down the road, the state, the private sector, and the rest cannot go down that path. So, of course, there's a big difference between passing the Senate bill, the bipartisan Senate bill, and the House H.R. 7. There are many more jobs, 2 million jobs in the Senate bill, whereas the House bill is a job loser. But separate and apart from that, just addressing kicking the can down the road, that's a job loser as well. Again, it affects small business. It costs the taxpayers more. They on again, off again with the projects, putting it down into the future where it will cost more as well. So it is a bad idea. We've asked them to pass something that can go to conference, and then an extension covers the time you go to conference, and that should be a matter of weeks, and then it's over. But apparently they don't have the votes to do that, and so we're at the mercy. In any event, whether it's energy and the need for us to address the price at the pump, many, as you know, when you've asked me what I support releasing or stopping the oil going into the SPRO. I'm pleased to see in the paper this morning that because of the conversations that the administration is having internationally, the price of crude is already coming down. And part of the oil issue, too, is when you say you're going to stop the Wall Street speculation and perhaps you're going to release or not put oil in the SPRO, that puts the speculators at unease about their speculation. So all of these things are connected, but they have one thing in common, which is the economic security of America, keeping America number one, whether it's adequately funding education, whether it is reducing our deficit in a fair way, but not by giving hundreds of thousands of dollars individually to higher income people in our country to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, and then asking seniors to pay more. Any questions?
Madam
Yes,
Leader, I'm wondering if you called the GOP budget a job loser.
Yes.
But yesterday there was a bipartisan bill that only 38 representatives voted for. I'm wondering, how that's not a job loser.
I don't get your point.
That bill, was bipartisan. It was with people from both sides of the aisle, and it included, a lot of what both.
Well, I appreciate you talking now about what was a caricature of Simpson Bowles. Is that the bill you're talking about?
If you may, yeah.
Well, they advertised it as Simpson Bowles, but they changed the spending and revenue provisions in it, and so it did not receive support on either side of the aisle because it wasn't a good idea. We think our House budget, our House Democratic budget, is a statement of national values, does reduce the deficit while investing in the future through education and the rest, and respecting our responsibilities to the American people, including our seniors. That bill did not have support because it wasn't what it was advertised to be. Quite frankly, a day or two before, I would have probably told you I would be supporting the bill when it was presented to our caucus as an option. But then when we saw what the particulars of it were, that's why I didn't vote for it. I can't answer for what others did. We didn't have a campaign against it. People just voted the way they voted.
Madam Leader, have you had any conversations, or what have the conversations been between you and the White House or colleagues about what to do about health care if parts, significant parts, individual mandates, or other parts of the health care law are struck down by the Supreme Court?
No, I think you know I'm pretty confident about the merits of the case, and I was very pleased. I didn't go there myself. I did not see the proceedings. I wish there were television cameras in the Supreme Court. In case any of you have that question, I'll anticipate it, so that we can all see the arguments and the back and forth of it. But I'm a supporter of judicial review, honor the Constitution in that regard. That's why we wrote our bill in a way that was constitutional. So I still feel pretty confident about it. And if and when this game is not over. March Madness, what happens if your team doesn't win? Well, wait a minute, let's have the game. And I have confidence in our Solicitor General and his arguments from what I can see from the transcripts. I don't know that anybody, well, Mr. Conyers was pretty confident yesterday, but then again, he went to the court. I was pleased to send a number of members, representative of our caucus, and they were all impressed by our democracy and how the system works. And then the substance, we'll see what the decision is. But they were inspired. It was lovely to see the reaction. People were so grateful to have the opportunity to go there.
Beautiful. You talk about the Senate bill that would close tax loopholes for oil companies.
Yes.
There's a bipartisan report done by the Congressional Research Service that says that cost to oil companies could actually be passed on to consumers. Why support a bill that could actually raise taxes or raise gas prices when gas prices are already so high?
Well, I think you speak to the bankruptcy of decency in the whole system. We have oil companies, the big five, making, I'm not talking about all oil companies, I'm talking about the big five. We're making tens of billions of dollars a quarter in profits, record-breaking, historic. Why do they need an incentive to drill? And I have had Republicans say to me, you want to reduce the budget by $38 billion by eliminating the tax breaks subsidies for big oil. You could save that much by taking the money out of Pell Grants. It's a different value system here as to how you do a budget. And so I think that keeping America number one is very important. Honoring rewarding an industry that makes billions of dollars a quarter, the five companies out making billions of dollars a quarter and saying if we don't, they will misbehave and pass it on to the consumer is totally irresponsible on their part. And it does not argue for giving them a reward, in my view. Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, what did you think of Bobby Rush's move yesterday on the floor?
The hoodie? Didn't I talk about that yesterday? Remember the pantsuits and all that? I think that Bobby Rush deserves a great deal of credit for the courage he had to go to the floor in a hoodie, knowing that he would be told he was out of order, and he quickly left the floor. He wasn't contentious about it, but he made his point. He called attention to a situation in our country that needs to be addressed in a way that a man in a suit and tie might not be able to do.
Madam Leader, can I follow up on that question? Yesterday you didn't seem concerned about the dress code. You said that it had changed since you've been here.
Yes.
One of your colleagues, Mr. Cleaver, is writing a letter to the Speaker asking him to enforce the dress code on the floor across the board evenly. Do you think it currently is being enforced across the board?
I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, to tell you the honest truth. I mean, I really don't. I do think that respecting any one of us will tell you that the biggest honor we can ever have in the Congress is to represent our districts, to do so with dignity, and that includes how we come to the floor. Sometimes members are just coming in off the plane or something like that, and they run to make a vote, and they may vote in the back of the room without a suit. But as I said yesterday, I'm more concerned about what they say on the floor and the policies that they put forth that are relevant to the lives of the American people. This, I think, falls into the fairly irrelevant, but all of us have the responsibility to serve with dignity. And yes, if you're going to enforce it, but don't be selective about it. I still wonder why women can't wear hats on the floor, but yes, sir.
Madam Leader, do you think, following up again, do you think that Congress should hold public hearings on the whole situation in Sanford and Trayvon?
I think that what we are we talking about Trayvon Martin? We all supported an investigation that is taking place. I think that that's an issue in the justice system, and if that doesn't seem to be working, then consider some other options. But I'm pleased that the investigation is going forward. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So just to be clear, are you urging your members to vote against the 90-day?
Yes. Well, they can do whatever they want, but I do think that it is irresponsible, and it's not. It cost jobs. It's almost a dereliction of duty not to have done this bill before. What's going to happen after we come back? What miracle is going to happen? What enlightenment is going to come upon us that they will finally be able to pass a bill? They should just pass the Senate bill. Let's go back to December when we had the payroll tax. The Senate Democrats and Republicans supported it. The President supported it. The House Democrats supported it. It was only the Republicans painting themselves in the extreme who opposed it until it became too hot to handle. They're doing the exact same thing. Senator Barbara Boxer, Senator Inhofe, could we go to a fuller array of opinion in the Senate? Co-sponsors of this legislation, bipartisan. 74 members voted for it. One was absent for a funeral, so it would have been 75, 3/4 of the Senate voting for this legislation. The President willing to sign, House Democrats ready to support, and yet other Republicans in the Congress not wanting to even bring it up. We have asked to have a vote on it. Some members want to have a vote on it. Our ranking member, Mr. Ray Hall, asked to have it made in order as a substitute. We didn't ask just to say, let's have a vote on whether we could have a vote. A vote is whether we could have a vote. And of course, we have bring it up as a previous question issue, but that's procedural and not a substantive. So members will do what they do. I think I myself will be voting no, and just think we should discourage, especially when there's no real prospect for success. They have their own bill. Pass your own bill. Horrible as it is, at least it takes us to conference. Can't do that? Let's pass the Senate bill. We can work together in a bipartisan way to pass the Senate bill. Mr. Hastert, when he was Speaker, he said he had to have a majority of the majority to bring a bill to the floor. So was that half the members plus one on their side to bring it to the floor, and we could work in a bipartisan way. Now they either they can't get a majority of the majority, or they're insisting on 218. In any case, whatever they come up with won't be signed or even approved by the Senate or signed by the President. So let's just get it done for the American people. Time is important, and it's about time that we pass this very important jobs bill. And I don't know what miracle can happen. I'm a big believer in prayer, and I engage in it, but I don't use it for legislation. But maybe that's what we need to do, to pray for something good to happen over Passover and Easter, because left to their own devices, we have seen nothing but kicking the can down the road, and they've even suggested they may kick it again. And every day that they kick the can, more jobs are lost, the cost to the taxpayer goes up, and small businesses suffer for lack of being part of these projects that will go forward.
Leader Pelosi, on the Erskine Bowles
Yeah.
question, to piggyback off of that, what does it say about the current state of American politics that the most bipartisan plan, the plan that puts the most pain on both sides, could only get 38 votes in the House of Representatives?
Well, do you know what's in the bill?
I know that it's...
Do you know what's in the bill? Because it's really important, because if you're making a judgment about it as to what was in Simpson-Bowles, then you know, as I said, I felt fully ready to vote for that myself. Thought it was not even a controversial thing. But it is not what that is. And the swings of tens of billions of dollars mean something in terms of the lives of the American people. I don't think that that's a measure of anything. I think the measure is that the Republicans will vote for a bill that cuts the Medicare benefit, that makes seniors pay more to get less, while gives $300,000 to the wealthiest people in our country. Isn't that astounding? Don't you just feel like taking to the streets and saying you're getting ripped off in there? That's really the focus. Should be the focus of our attention. And again, they did the same thing with the president's bill. They said this is the president's budget, except they caricatured it was a caricature of the president's budget, so we voted against it. They said this is Simpson-Bowles, except it was a caricature of Simpson-Bowles, so we voted against it. I think when we had our briefing with our caucus members, people felt pretty ready to vote for it until we saw it in print. But keep your eye on what is happening here, and that is we have a shift of resources, once again, from the middle class to the wealthy. This has been, my members don't like me saying this, but they have sucked up the money from the middle class in the 8 years of the Bush administration to the advantage of the wealthy, and now they're going one better by even giving more tax breaks to the high end. Does nothing to reduce the deficit, nothing to create jobs, nothing about fairness, doesn't invest in the education of our children, and weakens Medicare right now, and in a few years eliminates the guarantee altogether. It also eliminates the Affordable Care Act provisions that are in effect now. That means that $3.2 billion are saved by about 5 million seniors by trying to close the donut hole. That would be gone. It means the annual wellness a checkup without a copay, that would be gone. It means the 2.5 million students who are on their parents' policy until age 26, that would be gone. That means that every child, to the tune of millions of kids in our country who have a pre-existing medical condition, asthma, diabetes, birth defect, you name it, they cannot be discriminated against because of pre-existing medical condition. That would be gone. Because of what they... Do you want me to tell you some more things? This is absolutely so irresponsible, so out of touch with the needs of the American people and their kitchen table concerns that they have. But it's a big day for big oil and wealthy people and the rest of that, and that's who they're here to serve. And with that, I'm going to go to the floor to speak against the extension of the transportation bill.
Just to clarify, if it was the Simpson-Bowles brought up by the President, that was voted on by the President's Deficit Committee, would you have supported
Yes.
it yesterday?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
The House is voting on the Republican Study Committee substitute budget, the fiscal year 2013 budget proposal by the RSC. Their proposal would cap non-war discretionary spending for 2013 at $931 billion, slightly below 2008 levels, and $112 billion below the cap set by the Budget Control Act. The budget proposal, the fiscal year 2013 budget proposal, released by House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan last week, is the blueprint for spending in 2013. After this vote, they will take up the Democratic substitute. A vote on that in just a bit, an hour or so, and then we expect a final vote on the proposal itself, the 2013 proposal, about 3 o'clock or so this afternoon. Earlier, the House did pass the short-term transportation spending extension, the transportation programs bill. It passed by a vote of 266 to 158 It's a 90-day extension, and it now goes to the Senate.
On this vote, the yeas are 136, the noes are 285, with 3 members voting present. The amendment is not adopted. Purpose, does the gentleman from Wisconsin rise?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee do not rise.
Questions on the motion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. And pending the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it.